So yeah, all that happened. There's no way to say this without sounding more self-aggrandizing, well, really just making excuses than I have all the previous times, but there's really one thing this whole experience has highlighted for me, and to be clear, what I mean by this whole experience, I mean both last year or so of trying to maintain a working schedule, keeping this show and other projects happening, while also keeping up a legitimate paycheck job while watching so much of the rest of what's left of independent film commentary YouTube. Just check out and ride the grift and experience, specifically of putting so much on hold to try and repeatedly get a single fucking coherent goddamn piece of content about this Flash situation at Warner Brothers while it's still in flux, because I don't like saying I'm going to do something and then not being able to follow through, and there's been so much of that over the last few cycles. I didn't want this to be another one, and thus having to watch so much more go undone, having to fall by the wayside, etc., while I wrote scripts, and then having to throw them out again and again 6 fucking times over every time Ezra Miller got in trouble again. Projects got canceled, and there was so much new scandal, everything had to get scrapped and rewritten, and now, only now, do we finally reach a point where this whole thing is finally fucked enough on an almost completely other level that I can say, screw this. This is now the occasion to just put one together, and I can move the fuck on for my own sanity, because the clusterfuck has long since become more compelling than any of the films will ever be, by default, because it sounds like they're just going to end up canceling anything compelling and either go back to making horseshit or fail, fold, and go away, which at this point would be preferable.
Well, gang, what it's highlighted for me, honestly, is that I have been working entirely too hard, putting in entirely too much effort, and putting way too much consideration for the content I put out when it comes to this subject, because clearly nobody else cares. Warner Brothers, whatever's left of Warner Brothers at this point, which is basically an IP library that they're not really using outside of background players for Space Jam 2, Multiversus, and a logo, which they've now changed to be boring and unpleasant looking like the rest of the company, doesn't care. The people in charge don't care. Fandom, such as it is basically proud to be piggies at the trough for this shit, and the rest of this digital fever swamp, forget about it. I mean, outside of a handful of high-volume bright spots up at the top, some of which I'm proud to call colleagues, yes, but down here at the independent level, where I'm at, actual meaningful commentary and analysis, fuck, that's exceptionally dead, replaced by grifters, con artists, reading the trendline tea leaves and figuring out which piggies to soak by pretending to be very outraged by wokeness or feminazis or whatnot, shilling for cryptocurrency and NFTs, hoping to get noticed by whichever has-been stand-up comic or disgraced pseudo-academic the algorithm has decided to favor this week. Look, gang, I wanted to believe in the promise of the web as much as the next creator, but any media sphere that gets its philosophy from Jordan Peterson, its political acumen from Jimmy Dore, and its Jesus, I don't even fucking know, because to be honest, I thought this guy had died from Russell Brand, is in need of a start over from scratch situation when it comes to legitimacy.
Anyway, speaking of starting over from scratch, at this point, if you clicked on a video about this, and on this one in particular, I don't think I need to reiterate that the reason the Flash movie is supposedly a big deal is that it was put into production as a loose adaptation of the Flashpoint storyline, which was a Back to the Future 2 time travel makes the world different when you come back reboot thing, and the studio was going to use it to erase all the stuff that people hated from the last, wow, holy shit, Man of Steel came out in 2013, so yeah, the last decade of their DC Extended Universe movies, so yeah, most of it, basically. And it was going to intro some new stuff, like Leslie Grace from In the Heights was going to be Batgirl, and Sasha Calle was the new Supergirl, and Michael Keaton was coming back to play Batman again, but older because his movies were a while ago, and they weren't saying it out loud, but it seemed pretty obvious that the plan was just to do this younger, new hero stuff and ride that to compete with the Marvel movies, because hey, young people and greater diversity is in fact clearly what they're doing, so maybe don't look even more old-fashioned and behind the curve than you already are, especially when you've established that your brand can accommodate extra-canonical classic model stuff like Matt Reeves' Batman, or adults-only stuff like Joker, and you could totally do a traditional Superman or whatever else like that also while you're figuring everything else out. Maybe even hire back that handsome guy from The Witcher who doesn't really seem to have any acting range to speak of, but looks the part and the fans seem to like him, sure, and this has pretty much been the plan since around 2016 or so, and I honestly feel like we'd have already had this, gone through it, it would have worked or not, and we would have moved on, save for, one, the pandemic, remember that? I mean, I know we're all pretending that it basically didn't happen, we didn't lose 1 million people in 2 whole years of our lives, that it's not still going on, and that monkeypox isn't happening now on top of it, but it did happen, and it's probably the main reason all of this didn't happen on schedule and come and go, and we didn't all get to move on, and had it just swirl around and simmer in indecision instead.
And 2, the star of the movie happens to be this kid Ezra Miller. And guys, you know if you watch the other episodes on this, I have bent over fucking backwards to be fair and give the benefit of the doubt to this Ezra Miller. Because I don't want to throw a trans non-binary actor under the bus in this kind of environment, but at a certain point, this becomes fucking ridiculous. If even a third of this bullshit is for real, you've got an actor who's on a real-life GTA 5-star wanted rampage across multiple U.S. states and maybe Iceland, Greenland, I forget, with minors involved and whatnot, and the idea that Warner Brothers isn't doing anything about this, or at a bare minimum is waiting it out until Flash comes out because apparently that's just so important, is fucking ridiculous in light of everything that's gone down as of now.
Because it feels like that should be the most important thing, right? And it's weird that it's not. Again, I'm doing my level best, and I have been doing my level best to be Mr. Fair-minded about this, but we're about to talk about movie projects and cancellations and budgets and consolidations and tax breaks and write-offs and things done for the health of the brand, and even if someone is only talking in the most cynical, amoral, capitalist, money-driven, profit-over-people framing of this or any other situation...
What it is, I had the book translated into Japanese and back again into English, so... Macho business donkey wrestler. Well, there you go. It's got kind of a ring to it, don't it? Jimmy has fear 1,000 times no. Soon the super karate monkey death car will park in my space. But Jimmy has fancy plans and pants to match.
Okay, if you've got a lead actor who's in the news globally every other fucking day for tooling around the world with guns and body armor, getting into bar fights and mixing it up with the cops and multiple allegations about minors and sex cults and drugs and all manner of insanity, I mean, whether they're guilty, in which case, what are we even talking about, or releasing the movie, or they're innocent, in which case, why aren't you saying so and supporting them against a frame-up job? Shouldn't that be the most important thing? Isn't that what's best for business? Because right now, in the wake of the collapse of the Warner Brothers AT&T merger and Warner now being Warner Discovery, which to be clear was largely happening around all of this, not because of it, like the DC movies sucking and falling apart, and the Zack Snyder ones being bad, and the producers also screwing him over regardless, and the rest of the movies still being bad after that, and the delays and all that, that didn't help, but the AT&T fucking up and HBO Max not really taking off, and all this getting pawned off to Discovery wasn't caused by that, it was just one part of a much larger maelstrom of corporate fuckery.
And another sidebar, another aspect, maybe the biggest aspect, the most massive to me, of what's so fucking frustrating about the coverage of this whole thing is that said coverage is so dominated by this whole ecosystem of YouTubers and podcasters and posters and streamers and forums and social media influencers who've made being for or against this or that movie or franchise or actor their whole brand, but they don't know anything about, well, anything. These are truly some of the stupidest fucking people I've ever encountered, to the degree that you can even call these people, now that we know that most of the Snyder Cut thing was apparently just bots, but that's a whole other issue. Hey, what, wasn't Elon supposed to be taking care of that? Get on this, buddy. I mean, don't tell me the Tesla guy's full of shit, too. I can only take so much loss of faith in one cycle.
Regardless, you got all this content being generated by whoever for or against this or that media, and now they've pivoted to trying to cover the business side of the Warner Brothers stuff, but none of them actually seem to know anything about the movie business or Hollywood or the film industry, or have even seen any other movies.
I don't know what Parasite is. I don't give a shit about Parasite. It's fine. It won Best Foreign Film. You know why? Because it's a goddamn foreign film. Joker, let's talk about Joker, okay? Look at United States of America right now. What is more important to our culture than the Joker?
So the coverage is just this feedback loop of imaginary melodrama where they pick out a studio executive whose name they only just learned as the heroes or the villain, and who's based or not, and these idiotic conspiracy theories where every decision at every level of these billion-dollar telecom giants somehow goes back to whether or not someone is suppressing the continuity of a piece of shit Justice League movie. It would be embarrassing if it weren't sad, and sad if it weren't maddening. Because in the midst of this, back in reality, this past last week, Warner Brothers had to make the shareholders report, so actual news got made, and after their Comic-Con presentation goes over like a lead balloon, even though they brought The Rock out, because someone let a Henry Cavill's gonna show up rumor trend all weekend. Instead of getting in front of it and pushing back, they let everyone be disappointed, and then Marvel got on stage right after and went, oh, so here's all Phase 5 and the next 2 Avengers movies we're gonna own the next couple years still, mic drop, bye-bye. It turns out Warner's big saving throw, and their plan for everything was to cancel the Batgirl movie.
I don't think it's gonna work. No? Triomphe Napoleon.
Okay, yeah, slightly more complicated than that, but it actually involves a lot more corporate fuckery. Basically, Warner Discovery's new boss, David Zaslav, is cutting costs, dumping projects, firing people all over the company, and shrinking down the size of everything. And part of that is consolidating the streaming stuff together while trying not to look like that's what's going on. And among the other stuff that happened was taking 2 projects that were basically finished but begun under the previous regime in Batgirl and the sequel to Scoob, and opting to just cancel and unrelease them under the pretext of, we don't think they're good enough, but really so they can write them off for a tax savings of a pretty small sum, but supposedly saving money in some fashion. So the movie, which had a script from the writer of Birds of Prey and was being directed by the 2 guys who did Bad Boys 3 and oversaw a bunch of Miss Marvel, now can't come out. Nobody gets to see it. Everybody's hard work goes to waste. This young actress doesn't get a big franchise break. Doesn't matter that Warner Brothers promoted the movie and had her out in costume meeting fans and such. Doesn't matter, apparently. And as you can imagine, actual legitimate entertainment media, you know, places with standards that employ professionals, with people actually in the industry who know about shit and have experience, have called this out as bullshit, pointed out how disrespectful it is to the creators and the star.
Wow, I can't believe you're really going to make my movie.
Jay, we're not making your movie.
What? Why?
It's too good.
What are you doing with my script?
I'm putting it with the others that were also too good. Look at this. A lesbian love story, the biography of some clown named Galileo, Revenge of the Nerds 4. What are you doing here, you beautiful thing, when you could be making me a mint? Hey, fellas, start shooting!
Hooray!
My script.
Whereas in the fandom media, as constituted here on YouTube, streamers, social media, forum goons, etc., it was received with immediate positivity for exactly the same reason, i.e. it's fucking great news that a movie with an Afro-Latina female lead was cancelled. It's a blow against wokeism and forced diversity and all the shit that fake nerd media won't shut up about, even while swearing that it's not just another venue for phony right-wing culture war grievance.
Forget all these fucking social problems that Joker touched upon. Let's have a better woke agenda, and let's go full fucking woke, and let's give Parasite, the first fucking thing they said, Parasite, the first foreign language movie to ever win Best Picture. Well, pat yourself on the fucking back, Academy.
This has been the Canadian truckers and Dutch farmers of comment sections. Really, I thought it was bad when Empire Magazine put Galadriel on the cover, manspreading with her legs so wide you expect Durin's Bane to come flying out of her vag.
M&Ms will not be satisfied until every last cartoon character is deeply unappealing and totally androgynous. Until the moment you wouldn't want to have a drink with any one of them.
Oh, and it definitely meant that the Snyderverse was going to be restored at any minute, and Ben Affleck would be Batman again instead of just shooting a cameo for Aquaman 2, and Henry Cavill would be Superman again. There's been zero indication that's the case, but sure. And Dad's finally going to come back from going out to get cigarettes and going to get back together with Mom, and all the audiences all over the world are going to realize they were wrong about all those movies sucking, and they'll apologize to you personally, and it'll be all thanks to Warner Discovery executive based God Emperor David Zaslav. I mean, seriously, look at these things I'm putting up right now on screen. These are not fake tweets and memes and whatever. These are real. These are all real. I'm scrubbing most of the names and tags off because some of the people might outgrow this shit and be embarrassed later because they should be embarrassed. But, I mean, can you imagine anything more pathetic than fanboying, actually fanboying for a fucking reality TV executive? I mean, I guess maybe it's as sad as the guys who were still all over Elon's dick, but at least that guy pretended to invent stuff and, like, has his own spaceship. I mean, when people did this for Walt Disney back in the day, that guy had a TV show where he pretended to talk to the cartoons and showed you how he was building rides and stuff. This is just pathetic. This is like that whole Dark MAGA, Dark Brandon shit, or those guys who drew cartoons where Trump was all jacked and beating up the libs instead of being a gross tub of goo, right? And just like with that, they'll say, oh no, we're being ironic, we're only doing it to trigger people, but no, not really, right? Nobody buys that. And for a TV CEO.
But by the way, do you know who this guy is? I mean, I know, like I just said, that this is all about people who just found out who executives were and are pretending you know it. Do you actually know who David Zaslav is? Like, why you're supposed to know this guy's name from Adam? David Zaslav is the guy. Do you remember when like TLC and Discovery used to actually like be networks like Discovery and the Learning Channel, and then they became like the lifestyle thing or whatever, and it turned into just pseudoscience and fake reality shows with like Honey Boo Boo and the 19 Kids and Counting. You remember that the Duggars, the Jesus people with like the fucking Barney Rubble foreheads were just squirting out kids to make like the Army of Christ or whatever. Remember that shit, Honey Boo Boo and all that. He's that guy. He's the guy that turned Discovery and TLC into that and found success doing that. Like that's his big claim to fame. He's that guy. He's the Honey Boo Boo guy. That's his success model for television is David Zaslav, is the Duggars and Honey Boo Boo. That's why you're supposed to know who he is. That's why he's a successful producer. He's never done like movie production before. He's the guy who he decided Sarah Palin should have a reality show. That's David Zaslav, is the guy. That's your new god. People who are obsessed with the Snyder Cut is David Zaslav. That's this guy. So that's who we're throwing our weight behind. Apparently, is God Emperor Zaslav, the Lord and Master of Honey Boo Boo. That's the guy who's gonna save Warner Brothers. Apparently, is David Zaslav. Yeah. So that's who that is.
But the thing is, it's all fake, isn't it? That's what this really ultimately crystallized for me, and honestly made me able to finally put this to bed as a big picture topic to be waiting around on. Just the phony, useless meaninglessness of even trying to cover something that the people making it don't care about, and really doesn't seem like there's a sincere, real audience that cares about. Like I said, there's been like 5 and 6 different scripts at varying stages of completion for this Flashpoint or Flash movie episode, theorizing how the movie was going to go and whether or not it was a good idea or what the future of it looked like, and I was gonna look at what we knew about the Batgirl movie and the possible Supergirl stuff and the Blue Beetle and Zatanna. Are those still even happening? Do we know? I mean, I wouldn't bet on it. Maybe if their actors went on a few felony assault and robbery sprees, their projects would become uncancelable too. And compare it to how back in the day when the original post-crisis DC stuff did not work. People forget that, by the way. The immediate post-crisis Infinite Earths DC Universe refresh was not very well received. You know, Justice League Detroit was this whole miserable failure. DC Editorial didn't just go back to Plan Zero. They went with a different direction into what became the Justice League International era, which was a very new angle for a lot of stuff at the time, but turned out to be exactly what the brand needed and a necessary paving of the way to Grant Morrison's let's get back to the big guns stuff. And you know, I think that's what's shaping up to have some real parallels here, but anyway, that's definitely not what's happening now under the Honey Boo Boo guy, so who the fuck even knows? And also, clearly, it doesn't matter to fans because where are the Release the Snyder Cut people? I mean, here's the CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery fucking over filmmakers, stars, and crew of a DC movie and a bunch of other stuff too, but I won't overtax y'all by asking you to process more than one thought at a time, canceling it at the finish line for nakedly bullshit corporate tax stuff, screwing with creative vision. One of the directors was at his wedding when he found out. What the hell?
Another shocking twist!
Yes, and I have a message for you from Colonel Matumbe. He says, this is from Congo Jack.
I mean, I was told repeatedly for several years there was this whole huge grassroots movement of people who were very concerned about respecting creators' rights and seeing filmmakers' visions brought to completion at this studio with these intellectual properties specifically, and now crickets? No, not even crickets. Crickets would be bad enough. Instead, I'm seeing cheerleading for the fucking corporate guy doing the canceling, not standing up for the artists or the directors or the creators or this actress who's had her big break thrown out. So I guess y'all were full of shit about supporting that dude who played Cyborg, and why? Nope, everybody's on their knees to make a god emperor out of the fucking Honey Boo Boo guy because he might somehow eventually turn around and give you some version of what you think you want when he's done screwing these people out of their hard work and livelihood. And even if he doesn't, well, apparently it's good enough that certain people got dunked on or destroyed because what? Perceptions of politics, ideological crap, wokeness, anti-wokeness? Fuck off now and forever with the self-righteous bullshit that has now been laid completely bare for everyone to see, and that frankly those of us who knew what it was all along knew all along. A fake, trumped up in multiple senses of that phrasing, bullshit internet con job by disingenuous, performative, insincere, goddamn liars. Because if you were really mad about the Snyder Cut for all the fancy-sounding, high-minded reasons you claimed, you'd be just as mad about this. And you're not. Not in the same numbers, not at the same level, and plenty just not at all or even straight up on the other fucking side. If I'm wrong, prove me wrong. I'm sure that button that turns on the bots still works. I'm sure all those banners and Skywriters' phone numbers are still out there, and everybody who matters can see it. Straight on through to the real, hollow, empty center of the thing. And so I'm done. Done trying to follow this, done trying to care, and done trying to be fair about it. I'm sure there'll be more to talk about, there always is, but I'm done trying to parse it out even-handedly and coddle fanboys and pretend that there's a reason to give a shit about the future of this when we can all see that it doesn't fucking matter. I have enormous empathy for the people who might still be trying to make decent content under Warner Discovery, but frankly, this guy is everything wrong about the mentality of modern Hollywood, and I can't not root for any plan that he does claim to have to fail. The best thing that could happen to Warner Discovery is for the whole thing to collapse to the ground and for some other entity to take over all of this shit. This is a person, a whole conceptual type of guy, really, honestly, and a mentality that should have as little power and influence in popular culture as possible. And you need only look at the kind of people who've decided to fangasm over it to know that I'm right about this. You got a problem with that? I don't fucking care.
Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. You're cool. And fuck you, I'm out!
Anyway, that's that for now. And like I said before, yeah, more or less the 450th episode of this series. Yeah, how about that? Nice big round number for me to keep the hell going on, yeah. Though with some cool new stuff, which you will see coming up with much less delay than seen recently, now that we've purged all of this shit out of my system. Until then, I'm Bob, and that is the big picture.